German streets are being overrun by illegal and dangerous immigrants. This is the result of an open-door policy that has compromised the safety of ordinary people wherever newcomers from North Africa and the Middle East have been allowed in without control. Threatened by the massive influx of immigrants are also Poles, and all because of the Berlin-serving policies of the December 13th coalition. Dozens, hundreds of illegal migrants are being pushed through here, pushed back without any information, often to our services, without any interference of our services, without any control of our services. And these people are just pushed through, and they are uncontrolled, unchecked, unverified. They simply function as they please in Poland. There is no reaction, because there can't be. This is an obvious thing, because that's what the elections were for. Wirtualna Polska has reached out to the German police, who officially confirm that they returned 9,387 migrants to our country last year, as longtime Radio Debata journalist Aleksandra Fedorska, who covers the topic of migration, has been warning about. Today, Germany is trying to solve its crazy mistakes it made in the past and wants to solve them by putting the burden of migration on its neighbors. Germany thinks it is now the turn of the countries in our region to deal with this burden. And Donald Tusk, well, it has yet to happen that he has defied the will of Berlin, even if the safety of Polish people is at stake. Hence, the December 13th coalition quietly but obediently accepts Islamic immigrants. There are more and more of them in our country, and local government officials were given clear guidelines. They are to build integration centers and not to oppose the acceptance of immigrants under the threat of taking away EU subsidies. Germany is already sending unwanted immigrants to this country, and this is only the beginning of the invasion that the December 13th coalition is preparing for the Poles in cooperation with Berlin and Brussels. The worst thing in all this is that our border guards are completely deprived of information because the Tusk government does nothing to find out from the Germans who they are sending, in what manner, how many people there are, which way it is going. Therefore, tomorrow, first thing in the morning, we are going to Krosno Odrzańskie for an MP inspection. We will ask the border guards directly what is happening and also how we can help them, because we know that the border guards want to guard our borders. But because of the Tusk government's political decisions, this is being made very difficult for them. Germany is not only dropping off illegal immigrants to its neighbors, but also cracking down hard on those who criticize Berlin's migration policy. In Germany, the Alternative for Germany is such a force. It is the only party in Germany gaining wide support that openly criticizes Berlin for accepting Islamic migrants. For many months, it has been the AfD that has been sounding the alarm about the disaster Germany is heading for. However, such criticism is not accepted by the liberal authorities in Berlin. On Friday, the AfD was declared an extremist organization by German counterintelligence. That's an open way for the party to be stripped of its money or to target its politicians. The Secret Service will be used to track and possibly pacify the activities of a party that has the support of more than a fifth of Germans in the last parliamentary elections. And all at a time when conservative parties are growing in strength and getting louder about disastrous migration policies, threats to the security of the population, and attacks on traditional values. Germany, France, Spain, the United Kingdom, or Sweden have already been terrorized by culturally alien illegal immigrants. Let's remember this, because the same applies to Poland. In these countries, people were never told directly that now this particular government will settle several million Muslims on your territory. These actions were camouflaged or posed as actions to limit immigration, while in practice continuing the same process under the guise of all sorts of platitudes. And in Poland, we are unfortunately on the same path. Donald Tusk has no intention of stopping the influx of illegal immigrants into Poland. And of course, all Polish people will pay the price for a policy that is subservient to Berlin and Brussels. Kiev, Saturday night into Sunday. Dozens of missiles and drones aimed at random. Most were downed, others hit residential buildings. Not a day goes by without massive attacks on Ukrainian cities. In addition to the capital, the Russians hit 7 other regions. It's hard to see any sign in the Kremlin's actions of readiness for peace negotiations or a ceasefire, except on their terms. At present, the intensity of Russian strikes only indicates Russia's willingness to continue fighting. Nearly 100 Shahed drones are launched every night. This week alone, from Monday to Saturday, more than 950 Russian aerial bombs have been already used. Intense fighting continues every day towards Pokrovsk and in other areas of the Donetsk region. We are responding all along the front line, as well as in the Kursk and Belgorod regions, where our activity continues. However, Putin reportedly wants a ceasefire. He has declared a temporary ceasefire from the 8th of May till the 10th of May, all because of an organized parade in Moscow on Russian Victory Day, for years used for demonstrations of force. However, Ukraine has no intention of respecting truces as the Kremlin sees fit and is sending out a warning of possible provocations. Ukraine cannot guarantee the safety of foreign officials planning to attend Russia's Victory Day parade in Moscow on May 9th. Any incidents on Russian territory are exclusively under the control of the Kremlin. The Chinese president is scheduled to appear in Moscow. It is known that it is planned to sign economic agreements and further strengthen relations between Beijing and Moscow. This is of importance especially to the United States, which is now in a state of economic warfare with China. This is why the raw materials deal with Ukraine was so important to the United States. It wasn't just about financial gain or a share of the mining market itself, but primarily about image issues.
I think Ukraine understands, and what we intend, is that this is not just a financial arrangement. This is a bonding between two countries that will make a difference for a nation, certainly in Ukraine's situation where they have a friend, and the rest of the world will notice that when you have a friend like the United States and when we are in business with you and in your nation, it creates a stronger national security for everyone involved.
Washington already knows that nothing is likely to come out of the peace talks with Putin. Hence, it will be natural to strengthen relations with Kiev, based on the American capital. A regional counterweight to Moscow, which is moving closer to China, is to be built. On the part of the United States, investments will be monetary contributions or new military assistance, such as air defense systems. Ukraine's contribution is 50% of the rent from new oil, gas, and critical minerals licenses. With peace negotiations failing, Moscow today is probing the prospect of further war. Putin already knows that he alone will not defeat Ukraine's American-backed defenses. That's why he's engaging allies, North Korea or Iran today, and will certainly try to draw China into the war. In the upcoming elections, Polish people will decide whether Donald Tusk's deputy will become the new head of state. In such a scenario, it is difficult to imagine Rafał Trzaskowski reacting to the unlawful actions of the Donald Tusk-led government. And it is the president's duty to uphold the constitution, said Polish President Andrzej Duda. It is the president who will watch over the observance of the constitution. The president is the one who will be obliged. Therefore, in cases where someone doesn't follow the Polish constitution or Polish law and violates the law, whoever that person may be, the president will be obliged to bring it to his/her attention and then tell that person loudly that the law is being violated. Donald Tusk took the president's speech hard and even on a national holiday could not refrain from spiteful words. Mr. President celebrated the Constitution holiday like no one else, and the Constitution itself. The thief screams, "Catch the thief." The Chronicle of Lawlessness by Donald Tusk has many chapters. One of the first was the illegal takeover of public media, which the head of the civic platform announced this way. It will be according to the law, as we understand it. Meanwhile, the president reminded us that the Constitution leaves no room for overinterpretation.
Ponieważ to państwo
Because it was you, my compatriots, who agreed to this constitution in the referendum by reading it as it was written. Because in your majority, you are not experts in legal interpretation. You are not experts in legal reasoning. And it is a great constitutional fraud to extract from the content of the Constitution what was never written in it. The Constitution also does not provide for the manner in which the state prosecutor Dariusz Barski was dismissed and replaced with Dariusz Korneluk by the December 13th coalition. In the now famous recording, Adam Bodnar held Donald Tusk responsible for this illegal maneuver.
Pana działanie jest bezprawne.
Your action is unlawful. The new national prosecutor appointed by you. How was he appointed? By what decision? Please inform me. He was appointed by the decision of Prime Minister Donald Tusk. Donald Tusk has made no secret of his intention to break the law. He admitted this when introducing a new system in Poland, the so-called fighting democracy.
Mamy dzisiaj potrzebę.
We have a need today to act in terms of fighting democracy. That is, we will probably make mistakes more than once or commit acts that, according to some legal authorities, will be against or not fully in accordance with the provisions of the law. During his speech, President Andrzej Duda recalled that adjectival democracy was a feature of the Polish People's Republic.
kiedy władały tutaj
When authorities imposed from Moscow, authorities imposed from the Kremlin ruled here. When Poles were oppressed, many of them suffered, and many of them were thrown into prisons. And democracy was only a facade, as a people's democracy, an adjectival democracy. A feature of a facade democracy is the lack of political pluralism. The current government seeks to eliminate the largest opposition party.
Proszę mnie nie dotykać.
That's why law and justice deputies and even ordinary officials end up behind bars. And Jarosław Kaczyński's party is unlawfully denied due subventions, which causes shock in the civilized world.
Zadawano mi pytanie, czy rzeczywiście jestem jedynym.
I have been asked whether I am really the only candidate in this race who is being deprived of subventions unlawfully. This is the kind of experience that shows that information about the state of the Polish rule of law, the judiciary, and the presidential race itself is reaching the White House. Donald Tusk's lawlessness is also suppressing freedom of speech. TV Republica, which does not practice pro-government propaganda, faces harassment and attempts to revoke its license. This is an unthinkable situation in a democratic state. Currently, the slogan "Free Courts" sounds like a mockery. The December 13th coalition does not recognize the legitimacy of judges appointed under the United Right government. This allows for discretionary rulings, done on a whim by the ruling coalition. The key chambers of the Supreme Court or the Constitutional Court, which have been deprived of money to function or salaries for judges, are being undermined. Taking all this into account, in early February, the president of the tribunal filed a notice to the prosecutor's office about a possible coup.
31 stycznia.
On January 31st, I signed a 60-page crime notice on reasonable suspicion of a crime committed by the Prime Minister, ministers, the Marshal of the Sejm, the Marshal of the Senate, deputies and senators of the ruling coalition, the president of the Government Legislation Center, some judges and prosecutors, and others. The prosecutor's office swiftly covered up the case, and the prosecutor who undertook the investigation was removed from his duties.